Hey guys, today I'm going to be going over my vulnerability assessment on the hidden server located in our virtual lab environment. So here's a general overview of essentially the scope of this assignment. So this was a vulnerability assessment, and basically what a vulnerability assessment is a systematic process where you will go in and evaluate the overall security posture of your organization by classifying your weaknesses, any possible exploits, and essentially blind spots um, to take into consideration for your critical information systems and elements of your network infrastructure. As for the assignment, we were to identify a hidden server on our virtual lab environment and follow up by conducting a vulnerability assessment of the server to identify any possible entry points an attacker may be able to exploit. Some tools used for this assignment were in figuring out where the hidden server is. Network analyzers were used, such as Nmap on Kali Linux, and for the Greenbone vulnerability assessment, um, Greenbone was used. So the rankings essentially were to classify vulnerabilities found on a scale of low to high. Um, and for this assignment, only medium through high will be evaluated. Um, and the main considerations for evaluation are how they're identified, how they can be fixed, and how they may be exploited. As for the process of finding the hidden server, I started by determining what the IP was of the device I was using the IPA command in the terminal on Kali Linux, that is, and following up by doing a Nmap scan on this host device, and from then on, uh, through an Nmap scan, there was one particular device connected to this host that stood out, which was not configured during our semester project of configuring servers, and it was 192.168.130, which, as I could tell through port 445, um, had a Microsoft database system service in use, and by determining that, I was able to classify it as a Windows server. Moving on, we're going to discuss Greenbone, the service used for scanning this server and providing a vulnerability assessment. So Greenbone vulnerability management is essentially a tool used to identify vulnerabilities on IT systems and assess their severity. OpenVAS is the scanning engine Greenbone used. It scans iterates through a vast database of pre-recorded known vulnerabilities to determine identifiable flaws in systems. And by scanning this in the scanning process, it scans a large array of applications and systems on the target and provides a clear view of critical weaknesses on the network by uh, comparing it to this database of vast known vulnerabilities. So its scanner is an open source software allowing for constant updates and up-to-date knowledge on recent exploits. Scans that are conducted by Greenbone will break down all detected threats through a very insightful and organized report, which is automatically generated after completion of that scan. And we'll be going through um, the results of my scan and summarizing the findings of it. So the configuration process slumped me a little bit at first, but on our distribution of Kali Linux, it was already pre-installed. From then on, you just had to go through the um, restart and setup process using sudo jvm setup to initialize services for setup, and thereafter create a user and password credentials, adding your user to the Redis group, allowing you to access scan results and logs. And after everything's properly configured and set up, you can then access GVM through the browser. Vulnerabilities that are detected through the Greenbone vulnerability scanner goes through essentially a ranking criterion in order to classify it from low to high. The threat ranking system is determined by a multitude of factors, which take into account severity of potential impact, exploitability, type of behavior, exposure, or previous exploitation. And a CVSS score is the primary criteria used to drive these ranks. CVSS considers a variety of factors, in addition to those previously mentioned, to calculate a score on a scale of 0 to 10. These vulnerabilities are broken up into 5 levels. The first being no threat at a score of 0, low at a score of 0 to 3.9, medium being 4 to 6.9, high being 7 to 8.9, and critical being 9 to 10. So here I'm going to cover the findings of my report and break them down to get a grasp of the key insights discovered from them. So there were a total of 458 detected results flagged before filters. These filters were in place to put aside ones that were um, essentially debugs, uh, false positives, and results with a minimum QOD of 70, especially those with log level, which were none. Um, so after these filters, it brought the results down to 15 high severity vulnerabilities, 28 medium severity vulnerabilities, and 4 low severity vulnerabilities. And in my report, I plan to cover solely those deemed minimum and high severity. So here are a couple common vulnerabilities I noticed. The first being through transmission control protocol on port 80. There tended to be a lot of vulnerabilities associated with this port for HTTP services, leading to the presence of a lot of eavesdropping and cross-site scripting exploits. Um, there were many misconfiguration um, exploits associated with basically default configurations, neglecting proper access controls once these services are installed. Um, Many vulnerabilities that led to arbitrary script execution. So instances where certain applications and services contained bugs in source code, allowing for injection of malicious code to gain access to sensitive information. And lastly, there were a number of weak encryption algorithms um, and weak certificates used for um, essentially safeguarding data during transmission. Um, and most of these were under medium severity, but there was quite a lot. And the main uh, drawback of this vulnerability is your data can easily be deciphered if your encryption algorithms are weak. Here are some of the key insights from this report. As for exploits, I think this assessment provided a very analytical and insightful view of common exploitation mechanisms attackers use to breach networks and many common blind spots organizations aren't aware of for their cyber defense strategies. Many fixes that I noticed two commonalities when it came to mitigation procedures. The first being taking advantage of access controls available in configuration files of many services, and the other, which was prevalent in nearly all of these vulnerabilities, that being making sure your systems and software are up to date to the latest versions. If the provider has been made aware of an exploit and you're using the outdated version, more often than not, there is a patch in newer versions. So for the threat landscape, I think Greenbone provides you an excellent outlook on this. It's useful for familiarizing yourself with past and uh, present threats that are common. And lastly, as for risk tolerance, I think um, you get a good idea using um, this tool with the ranking system of what vulnerabilities to prioritize and essentially like your risk appetite for which uh, vulnerabilities you're willing to set aside. So to wrap things up, after using it, I can say Greenbone is an excellent software for gaining an even better visibility of your security posture and potential attack blind spots. I think the greatest step towards mitigating risk is know your enemy, know your weaknesses too. Um, I think by knowing like common attack strategies and um, common entry points attackers tend to target, I think you can get a really great insight um, onto how you can defend yourself. So to ensure business continuity, uphold a strong reputation, um, an organization must understand the importance of knowing their security posture and how to improve it. And I believe Greenbone is an excellent tool for providing valuable insights when achieving this goal.